Good afternoon. Welcome aboard the Searcher. We're here for another Tackle Talk Live. Today we're going to be covering tackle boxes and just your essentials that you need in your tackle box. We hope that everybody in the Searcher family and people that are new to the Searcher family are staying safe and healthy and observing all the regulations that are out there, and so hopefully that's happening, and we're wishing everybody well. So we're going to cover 1.5 to 4 day trips and what just the essentials are for your tackle box. And so thanks to Fisherman's Landing Tackle and Doug Kern and the boys, they allowed us to grab one of these soft cases. This is an SKB soft case that's also a backpack, so it's easy to transport. And so we're going to use that for an example. You know, all your essentials probably ought to be in the top. Like you need some flex wrap, and you need some sunscreen at the beginning of your day, so that can go in the top. Remember, apply that a couple times a day. Everybody needs a pair of pliers with some diagonal cutters for cutting monofilament and fluorocarbon and spectra, and then some duck bills for holding on to your hook if you need to tighten the knot. So those can go on the top of your tackle box. And then we've got a towel here, a bait towel for wiping your hands. And so you can keep your essentials that you need in the top of your tackle box, so it's easy access. The hooks that you're going to be using, the flex wrap is something that we recommend that you have. It's really good to like put on just your forefinger and your thumb, because you're when you're winding in, you're guiding that spectra back and forth multiple times during the day, and so this can protect your fingers from line cuts. So that's something that you should have. So everybody, you need your basic hooks. I got an example of these owner hooks, these bulk packs. There's 40 Gorilla style live bait hooks, number 2s, and here's a 2.0. There's 28 in this bulk pack that you can purchase, and so that way you have multiple hooks, because you're going to need them. And then here's a 6.0 if you were fishing the coast or trying a dropper loop or something like that. So hooks can go in the top of your tackle box. Here's a spool of line. Spare line is important. So you could have a couple different ones, 1.5 to 4 day trips if you had a 25 and a 40, or a 30 and a 40, so that you can respool your line at the end of the day. It's a really small investment, a small insurance policy to change your line out at the end of the day. That way the next day you're fresh. You got fresh. You need an assortment of fluorocarbon, and so you need to match the size top shots that you have, whether it's Izorline or Seaguar. These are nice because they come in small compact packaging. So we got 25, 30, 40, 50, and 60. And so you need to have that. And those can go, you know, in this top shelf here. That makes it pretty easy access. And then, you know, there's 4 compartments here, the organizers. And one of them can be, because of packaging, it was tough to get them in here, but you can take these dividers out and store those. And then you can put your lures, like your flat falls or your dart-like Colt Sniper, once you get it out of the packaging, and you can put it in these organizing trays, and that way you know, they go on that top shelf or in one of the shelves of your tackle box. So, and these are pretty convenient. And then if you get really invested in hooks, then you can organize them in different sizes, circle hooks, J hooks, and they can be in your top one, the one that you're going to use the most. So that's something that we recommend.
Derek Taguchi wants to know about 15-pound fluoro.
15-pound is a little light. I wouldn't recommend bringing that if you're going on a half day or something like that. Derek, he's trying to be funny. Should be 35-pound fluoro, Derek. So, and here's something, if you've got all your lures and it's the heaviest organizer that you have, put it towards the bottom of the tackle box. You put it towards the top, then your tackle box is top heavy. So you don't want all your sinkers and all your lures on the top of your tackle box. And the reason for that is depending upon what boat you're going on. But here on the Searcher, you know, if we're rolling around and it's choppy and your tackle box is a little top heavy, then it can spill over, and that's a drag if you know, have all your hooks in these organizers here and then it gets dumped out. So put your heavier organizers towards the bottom of your tackle box. That way it's bottom heavy rather than top heavy.
For circle hooks, with rings or no rings?
I don't really think it makes that much different. Circle hooks without rings, I think, you know, work just fine. It's okay without rings. And then, so on a 1.5 to 4 day trips, there's a chance, sometimes the month of July offshore can be really, really good yellowtail fishing on kelps offshore. And so you got to have one of these organizers with yo-yo lures. So these heavy, this is a 6X Salis blue and white. Blue and white is the universal yo-yo lure color. It works. You know, 95% of the time, if the captain comes, you know, you're leaving the harbor and he says, boy, you better tie on a yo-yo lure for this afternoon, then I'm tying a blue and white one on. So there's 2 sizes, and they have to be heavy now so that they can sink to get to depth. And that's a 6X, regular 6X. Here's a 6X Junior. It's a little smaller, a little lighter. And so if you check the tackle suggestions, it says that you should have a few yo-yo lures. And then there's this color, Scrambled Egg, is one of the colors that really works well. And we recommend, if you you decide that you're going to tie this Scrambled Egg on and everybody around you's getting a bite on a blue and white, then you might take your Scrambled Egg off and put your blue and white one on. Or vice versa, if you went with the universal color of blue and white and it's not getting a bite, maybe you're not turning the handle fast enough. Yo-yo fishing, you got to turn the handle fast, and maybe they're biting this color for whatever reason. They key on the bait that's around the kelp padding. And if it's really windy and the boat's drifting pretty fast, then a heavier lure. This Salis 6X regular size. So depends upon conditions. If it's calm and the boat's not moving that fast, then you can use the the lighter jig, so lighter lure. So you want an assortment of those in your tackle box. Remember now, put them towards the bottom. And then another one for sinkers. And these sliding egg sinkers are something that you want to have in your tackle box. I think this is a 1 ounce. So you're just going to slide that on before you tie your hook on, and sometimes it's helpful to get your bait down, and then you can have various sizes. This is a couple ounce. So 1/2 ounce to 2 ounce sliding egg sinkers is something that you should have in your organizers. And then for sinker rigs for bluefin tuna offshore, this is a 4 ounce torpedo, and if it's windy, then maybe you want a 12 ounce or 8 ounce. So you want to have a selection of sinkers in your tackle box as well. There are times when, you know, maybe bait fishing is something, mackerel, everybody chipping in and catching mackerel either at the bait receivers or someplace on the coast or something like that. So you want a torpedo sinker, and unfortunately I forgot to get a bait catcher. That's something that you should have in your tackle box. Bait catchers, whether it's the sabiki or yozuri kind, the 4-hook Ganyan for catching bait, is something that you should have in your tackle box as well. A couple of them anyway. So this is a perfect time while we're hanging out at the house. The last time we did this, we talked about getting all your tackle out on your garage floor and kind of survey what you have. And you can do this with your tackle box. You can take the organizers out and maybe have some time to organize and see what you're lacking, and maybe budget-wise you can't go out and spend a bunch, but when things get rolling again, we're hoping for June that we get out there and start catching fish, that you're going to have your tackle box all organized. So the next thing offshore fishing is these flat fall, butterfly, flat fall lures. There's all sorts of different ones. These are the Shimano flat fall and butterfly, and they're in various sizes. These are 160 grams. This is a 200 gram. And then we have this 250 gram, and once again, that is kind of it depends on the conditions. If it's windy and you're drifting, then you want a heavier one. So don't just buy the 160 gram ones. You know, you need various sizes so that you're ready for whatever conditions come your way. So flat falls, and I did not get some heavy leader material, but you want, you know, 150 pound, 100 pound, 150 pound, up to 200 pound mono, and have a, you know, a 4-foot leader on these things, so that you know, at night when you get a bite, sometimes that bluefin tuna inhales that lure, and if it's a bigger fish, it's going to have bigger teeth, so you want some leader material that you can buy, you know, small increments of leader material from whatever manufacturer there. And so that's flat fall, and you can take these out of the packages and put them in your organizer, so you can have an organizer with your flat falls, and then your Colt Sniper. Some more hooks we got. How to grab another Colt Sniper. So the dart-like lures that are small like this. Now we're recommending that you can change out the hook to a single hook. And so you want various sizes of this too, depending upon conditions. But the dart-like replica of a small bait fish, and so a couple ways to fish this is you can cast it out, and once it hits the surface, you can put your reeling gear and put your rod tip up and skip it across the surface. That's effective, or you let it sink like a flat fall.
Do you prefer heavy monofilament or heavy fluorocarbon as the leader for fall type jigs?
Flat fall should just be mono. It doesn't have to be fluorocarbon. A lot of times we're doing it at sunset or right before sunrise, so it's most of the time the best flat fall fishing that we've had in recent history has been at night. So mono works, and it's cheaper that way too.
Do you recommend replacing barrel sword hooks from ones that come with the flat balls?
Oh, you know, I know that a lot of people have been doing that. They've been replacing the hooks that the flat fall comes with. I'm pretty sure this is an example of that, where they changed the hooks, made them bigger. You know, these ones that come out of the package are sufficient. They work. I mean, it's not imperative that you change. You just want to make sure that line is good, that is going from the lure to the hook. You know that it's been recommended that you change the hooks and change that leader material that goes between the lure and the hook. But I think that the manufacturers have kind of keyed in on that because everybody's recommending it, and so they've made them better so that you don't have to do that.
What size hook should you bring? Circle J hook?
So
And what single hook?
a single hook size for a flat fall, you want like a 6/0 to 8/0 hook, something big. So I got a selection of hooks here, and like I said, that I got these bulk packs that. So I've got a number 1, I've got a number 2/0, and a number 3/0, and so you want that hook size selection. You know, if the fish are biting pretty well and you can use heavier tackle, then you know a 3/0 hook, circle hook works. And then if you're having trouble getting a bite, rather than go down in line size, you can go down one hook size, and sometimes that makes a difference. And last year, I mean, we were using number 1s and number 2s just to get a bite, because sometimes those bluefin weren't biting all that great. So you want a selection, and like I said, you can buy these bulk packs. And so these are the Mutu circle hooks. That's the ones that we like. And then these Gorilla live bait hooks. We got a number 2, a 1/0, and a 2/0. So if you have those 3 hooks in your tackle box, and once again, you can put those in the top of your tackle box, because that's where you're going to be working out of the most, is the top of your tackle box. You know, so you get in a tangle, or you catch a fish and you want to retie, you want easy access so that you can get back in the water as soon as possible. And so the last thing, the last thing that I wanted to talk about was trolling lures. Everybody, you know, if you have that heavy outfit, and if we're trolling around looking for fish, obviously we're going to have a trolling rotation. And here's some examples of some of the ones that have been hot here lately. These Halco plugs have been good. This is a Max 130. They come in bigger sizes than that. That swims really well and gets bites. And then Rapalas, the X-Rap. This is the 9mm X-Rap XR Mag 30. And there's all kinds of different colors and patterns and that sort of thing, but this mackerel sardine one works the best. But sometimes these things don't swim very well. They don't track very well right out of the box, and so check with the crew, and they can make a minor adjustment on the lure itself. You don't want to put this out there and then end up in a tangle every time that you put it out there. So you want that thing to track right. And then the cedar plug, it comes in various colors. Boy, for my money, I'm buying this 6-inch plug. This is an 8-inch plug, but I'm buying this 6-inch plug that's not painted and just raw wood, raw cedar. And that thing, over the past few years, is like old reliable. So that's one of the suggestions we make for trolling lures. The good old cedar plug. I have a funny story, just anecdotally, since we have a little time. Celia and I were lucky enough in November to go down to Panama, and our friends had some trolling outfits that we provided for them as a gift when they left San Diego. And we thought, well, we're going to fish because we like to put fresh fish on the table. So, I picked the brightest green fluorescent lure out there, thinking, okay, we're in, I don't know, 85-degree water. We're going to catch a Dorado, and we're trolling along, and we hadn't gotten any bites. And so Michael, my friend, said, well, why don't we change the lure? And I said, well, just give it a little time. You got to have patience, So, of course, he's the captain. It's his boat, and it's his tackle. He chose to put his cedar plug out, and it wasn't out there for 5 minutes, and we caught a Dorado on it. And we've been trolling for an hour with the one that I chose. And so, good old cedar plug. So we started calling Michael Cedar Plug, and it worked. We caught plenty of fish in Panama on a cedar plug. This medium size worked well, and we ate great.
What's your opinion of a waxwing lure?
So Shimano came out with the waxwing lure maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it's a kind of a heavy, fast retrieve, cast it out there, and it, at the time, it seemed like the thing that was going to take over, and then it, other things have come into, with Cold Snipers and Flatfalls and Butterflies, and the other casting lures kind of took over, and waxwings, they still work, but they've kind of taken a back seat to all these other ones that have worked better and have had good production. But it's certainly, why not? I mean, it's something that it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a waxwing. And the one thing that I can tell you about fishing with a lure that a lot of people don't realize is whether it's a yo-yo lure, whether it's a Cold Sniper, whether it's a Flatfall, you have to tell yourself that you're going to devote an hour to do this. It's not something that you can you know, if you cast it out there 4 or 5 times and you don't get a bite, then you go back to live bait fishing. You have to work at it. You have to dedicate yourself to it. And so, you know, check your watch or whatever and say, okay, it's 7:45. The next few stops, I'm going to focus on fishing with a lure. And so, you know, in order to get a bite, you got to have it in the water, right? So you have to dedicate some time to it. You know, maybe dedicate a morning to it or whatever. And talk to the crew when you get on the boat and say, what's the artificial lure that's been working the best? And of course, there's going to be a seminar on the boat on the way out, and the crew's going to be available to help you get rigged up. But talk to the crew and get real-time information on what worked yesterday, because we just came in, so that would be our recommendation.
Do you guys prefer a short top shot or a boat length of mono between your braid and fluoro?
I like a longer top shot. A boat length, that's 100 feet for 95 feet for us. So I would recommend a longer top shot. It's one of those things where you have a little bit of stretch. You don't have that direct line straight to the spectra. So you have a little bit of stretch in the monofilament, especially if it's breezy and choppy. Maybe, you know, with a short top shot, then you end up pulling the hook because you have no stretch. It's just spectra to fluorocarbon. Now maybe you put your whole spool, like these spools right here, I believe are 25 yards. So these are 25 yards spools, so you're going to wind that whole spool on there, so that's 75 feet. And then you're not retying a bunch with connections. So, but I recommend a longer top shot. I'm kind of lean towards that. And I'm getting up there. I'm getting older now, and so a little shock absorber with some monofilament doesn't hurt as much when you're pulling on something that's a little bit bigger and tough. That's just me.
What size reel do you recommend for trolling?
You need a Penn International 30 or an Accurate 50 or a Shimano TLD 30 would be 3 outfits that you can use. We have some International 51 speeds that were given as a gift to us that we use, and we also have some Shimano TLD 30s that work well, and so you need kind of a bigger, heavier reel with some line capacity on it, and so that's what I would recommend. And you don't have to have a trolling outfit. If you come on the boat, we have trolling outfits that function, and generally they have lures on it that we've had luck with. So, you know, when it's your turn to troll, you can go back to the stern and the crew will assign you a trolling outfit, and you can watch that trolling outfit. So it's not essential. Like a day and a half trip, you don't have to bring a trolling outfit. You can just bring the 3 rods and reels that we recommended in the last Tackle Talk Live, and then that's something that you don't have to carry and bring with you. But yeah, you need a bigger reel for trolling. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, you're not targeting a specific size fish, and you know, who knows, maybe you get lucky and you hook something big because, you know, maybe you're trolling by a school at 200 pounders or something like that, and if you don't have the right size reel on there, then your chances of landing that fish of a lifetime go down. So yeah, big reels.
And best rod to pair with that Fathom 40 for trolling?
For trolling, a 6 foot, our 6.5 foot Seeker 700 series, I think. It's a graphiter, something that's got a little backbone on it, and I can ask the exact, I can get a hold of Rick at Seeker and he can give me a recommendation, so we'll get back to you on the right rod to have for trolling.
What are 3 or 4 knots that all long rangers should know and practice?
3 or 4 knots. So 3 knots, there's a San Diego jam knot for just tying hooks and lures on. For me, with live bait up to 40-pound test, I'm tying an improved clinch knot. And then a surgeon's loop for a connection to fluorocarbon for mono. And then the John Collins knot for Spectra braid to monofilament or fluorocarbon. And I'm happy to show those knots if you want. Okay. So there we go. There's a simple, fast, improved clinch knot. Here's your hook or your lure. So we're gonna just wrap the line 6 or 7 times. With this size line, I'm not gonna wrap it that many times. But your tag end, here's your tag end, here's your line going to your reel. We're gonna come up through the loop in the mono, and then you're gonna go through the loop that you made. So just a clinch knot would be like that, and with an improved clinch knot, we're going through that loop, and then you're gonna pull on the main line in order to cinch it down. And remember, wet that line so that it cinches down. And you want to cinch it all the way down to your hook. So that's the improved clinch knot. And then next we'll show you the San Diego jam knot. So you need a little longer tag line because there's another loop involved. So I'm going around my index finger and I'm going back down towards the hook 6 or 7 times, and you're going around 2 sets of line there, your tag line and your main line. So 6 or 7 times. With this size shoestring, it makes it tough to do that many because it won't cinch down. So then your tag line goes through the loop in the mono at the hook, and then you're coming back up and you're going through that loop that your index finger was around, and you pull on the tag line a little and the main line a little, and you can see that if it's tied correctly, all those loops line up. And then you pull on the main line to cinch it down towards your live bait hook or your lure. So that's the San Diego jam knot.
What's the San Diego jam good for?
Everything. Live bait, lures, trolling lures, flat fall lures. Yeah, it's a universal knot for attaching hooks, lures. Yep. So then here's the surgeon's loop now. So here's your fluorocarbon, and here's your main line coming from your reel or your top shot. And you want to get it about 12 or 14 inches of line. And you're going to make a loop, and you're just going to tie 3 overhand knots in it. Once, twice, 3 times. Okay. And then you pull on either side and you can see that it's coming together, kind of organized there. And you pull on all the lines until it cinches down tight. This heavy line, it doesn't cinch down all that tight, but it comes together and all your loops are kind of lined up there. And then you're gonna, with the pliers that you have in your tackle box, you're gonna cut those tag lines off. And then your fluorocarbon, you're gonna take and you're gonna tie, for me, you're gonna tie your, because I'm in a hurry to get back in the water, I'm just tying a improved clinch knot, fast, easy, strong, and I'm back in the water. And then John Collins knot. Here's your monofilament, or make a loop. Make sure you've got plenty of tag line to work with here. So you're gonna wrap 5 times. Bear with me because this, need more tag line here. The size of string I got, so we're just going to do 3 times, and then we're going to hold it up here at the top, and then we're going to go back down towards the loop 5 times. Just going to do it 3 times here because of the size, and then you can go either way. You can go the opposite direction that your first loop did, or the same, doesn't make any difference. And then you're gonna cinch it down. You're pulling on your tag line of your Spectra so that, and you'll see it. When it's tied correctly, you see that all your loops are lined up, and then you cinch that down, and then you clip your tag lines off, and that's the John Collins knot, and it works really, really well. It's fast and strong, reliable, works good.
Howard Fulmer asks,
Howard, how are you?
sharks are part of the game at Guadalupe. What can one do to increase the odds against the sharks? Any tips, tricks?
Well, I can think of 2 or 3. Hopefully you have the right gear and you're using a 2-speed reel, and you know, remember the rail is your friend. You can have the boat do the pulling for you, so all you are responsible for is turning the handle and gaining line. So lay the rod on the rail, so that helps, and you keep steady pressure on the fish. And you have to keep steady pressure on the fish and keep gaining line. And the other thing is that if you've had that fish on for a while, you know, it's not out of the ordinary to ask for a little break from a crew member or the captain, and you know, you get somebody fresh in there that can really put some pressure on that fish and get it to the surface so that we can get a gaff in it. And then the other thing that happens a lot is, you know, the shark frightens the tuna. And so some of the mistakes that we see anglers make is that the line goes slack and they just assume that they lost the fish. So you put your reel in high gear and you bring all that slack up, and maybe that fish just made a beeline for up underneath the hull for safety. And you know, a tuna is generally faster than a great white shark, so you know, if that happens where your line goes slack, then you need to turn the handle as fast as you can and gather line, because that fish might be right close to the surface and up underneath the boat, away from the shark, and so you get to land your fish because of that. And we've seen that multiple times where you're pulling on it, you see a great white shark down there, and your line goes slack, and it's just a natural reaction of disappointment because you think you lost your fish. But in reality, that fish made a beeline up underneath the boat for safety, and you didn't lose your fish. You just need to gather some line. So that's a couple tips. Don't be afraid to have one of those young bucks that are part of the crew come in and spell you, get a drink of water, or just let us catch it, you know, so that, you know, you're putting a tag on a fish rather than have it get bit by a great white shark. They are part of the game, and so that would be my tip. So those are the 4 knots. Thanks for the question, Howard. I want to put a shout out again to Fisherman's Landing Tackle. Doug and the guys were kind enough to let Celia and I have carte blanche in the tackle store today. We got all this stuff. We're going to return it tomorrow, just so that we can show everybody what you need in your tackle box.
Is there something that originally thought wasn't a very good idea that now is a staple in tackle box?
You know, I thought about that question, and for me, it was fluorocarbon. You know, I'm a proponent of change your baits. Make sure you select a bait. Take time at the hand well and select a bait, and make sure that you have a lively bait. And I felt like fluorocarbon wasn't necessary. And when it first came out, it was really, really expensive. And so, you know, it took me a little while to drink the fluorocarbon Kool-Aid, but you know, now you just gotta have it. It works. It works. So fluorocarbon, I would say, is something that wasn't, you know, in our wheelhouse, in my wheelhouse, but I'm a firm believer in it now. And the other thing that has come on the scene in the last decade is the small 2-speed reel. Boy, they pay for themselves, a small 2-speed reel. You know, the single speed reel has its function for small fish and small tunas and yellowtail and that sort of thing. But you know, if there's a chance to catch something with any size to it, 30, 40, 50 pounds and up, then you just have to have a 2-speed reel.
What basic necessities for yellowtail for beginners would you recommend?
Well, fortunately, you know, we have Irvingham Bait Company that catches our sardines for us, and up until last year, you know, they were perfect bait size, 6 to 8 inches long, and so, you know, an outfit with 30-pound test on it doesn't have to be a 2-speed reel. It can be a single-speed reel. You know, a 1.0 and a 2.0 hook, and a live bait is, for beginners, is something that is essential. And then I know a lot of times, you know, if there's fish on the sonar, then, you know, the artificial lures with heavier tackle, 40 to 60 pound test, and a 2-speed reel for a beginner, it's something that you should have. It's essential to have these for yellowtail fishing. You know, technology has come into play now for, you know, several decades with sonars, and so, you know, rather than fishing structure where you're fishing current and that sort of thing, you know, a lot of times now we're fishing offshore and catching yellowtail on kelp patties, and you know, you can fish the coast and not ever anchor up. You could just be driving around looking for schools of fish on the sonar, and they're generally at depth, and so those yo-yo lures are something that's essential. And like I said, you can use heavier tackle, and so that for a beginner it's really productive.
Do you favor circle hooks over J hooks? And what's the best way to hook a bait on a circle hook?
Well, circle hooks certainly have their place because they take the whole abrasion part of catching a fish, where with a J hook, you know, the fish swallows it, and so your mono or your fluorocarbon is rubbing back and forth on the fish's jaw, and so then you lose your fish because there's a weak spot there because of the teeth on a tuna. So circle hooks work great because that hook actually, if your drag setting is correct, it actually gets hooked in the corner of the mouth, and so the teeth of the tuna don't come into play. So I guess I would say that it depends on what size fish that you're targeting. I mean, if you're going out and you know that you have a chance at a 50 to 70 pound bluefin tuna offshore drifting fly lining baits, then I'm using a circle hook, because then, you know, I can put extra drag on, and maybe I can use a little bit heavier tackle, heavier line, and with a circle hook, with the correct drag setting, then the circle hook is really something that is important to have. 40 pound fish and less, then, you know, Owner Hooks is a great sponsor of ours and provides us with hooks throughout the season, but you know, you can, if you're fishing yellowtail or if you're fishing smaller tuna, you can get the standard Mustad 2.0 Shaughnessy style J hook that costs 3 or 4 cents a piece, and they work great. Been using them for decades. So it depends on the size of the fish.
When fishing bluefin, do you recommend nose hooking or anal hooking? And then does anal hooking work best for yellowtail?
I would nose hook a bait for yellowtail, and 2 reasons. Nose hooking a bait, you know, the bait tends to swim on the surface a little bit more, and when you get your bait out away from the boat, if you're drifting, or if you get your bait out in the current and it's back behind the boat, you know, 150 or 200 feet, then nose hooking, you can put your reel in gear and you can wind that bait in slow and sometimes get a bite on the retrieve. So for yellowtail, nose hooking a sardine. For tuna, it's either or. And there's 3 primary spots. Wish I had a small fish. But so nose hooking sideways through the nose is a good way. Anal hooking is a good way because you know, the head of the bait is already facing down, so you know the bait maybe swims down below the surface, and you can get a bite that way. And then you know, shoulder hooking is another way, and then just behind or just right in front of the dorsal fin is another. There's 4 really good ways to hook. I would tell you that you don't get locked into one or the other. If you cast half a dozen baits and you tried nose hooking and you didn't get a bite, then change the presentation, change where you're hooking your bait. So change the presentation up so that you're changing things up a little bit. Don't get locked into only hooking it sideways through the nose. And I think that there's some videos on our website. Captain Mike Totter did some seminars on our event back in January, where we had some live bait at the bait tank, and Mike was demonstrating on how to hook baits, and you can reference that seminar that Mike did about hooking live baits, and he's an expert. He's a great fisherman.
What brand and size tackle box do you recommend for a 1.5 to 3 day trip?
Well, this SKB box is the one that I kind of gravitated to, because you can cover all the bases, and there's plenty of room in it. And it has the straps on the back, so out of the parking lot, it's a backpack, so that makes it cool. Plenty of organizing boxes in there so that you can separate your different types of methods of fishing. So this is the one that I went to. That way, you're covering all your bases for a 1.5 to a 4 day trip. Now, if you're just going on if you're going on a 1.5 day trip, you could have 2 rods and reels, a 25 and a 40 pound outfit, and a pack of hooks. You could walk on the boat with a pack of hooks and 2 rods and reels on a 1.5 day trip, and you wouldn't even need a tackle box. You just put your hooks in your pocket and bring your rods and reels, and you'd be covered because you're fishing live bait. And the other thing that's great about most of the boats and on the Searcher, we have spare line. We have hooks for sale. We have fluorocarbon. We have lures. We have a mini tackle store on the upper deck that, if you're missing something, then you can certainly get it from us. So, but this, up to a 4 day trip, even an 8 day trip, this box would work pretty well. You could have, I have one of these organizers with nothing in it right now, and you can put all your Wahoo bomb stuff and lures in that tackle box. So this is a great box. It's got lots of pockets and places to store stuff, and so this is compact enough and has enough storage that you could cover all the bases.
Johan wants to know, when are the albacore coming back locally?
Wish I had an answer for that. I can tell you that there are guys that are fishing long line, for big eye tuna and swordfish that are, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 600 miles outside of Guadalupe Island that have been catching albacore. So they're really not that far away. I guess it depends on water conditions. And I hope they show up before my career's over here, so I can get even, because they haven't been around in a few years now. So I think they owe us.
What pound top shot would you recommend for a Penn Fathom 40 if you're fishing for a heavy bluefin outfit?
Fathom 40, you probably want 80 pound Spectra, and you can put 40 to 60 pound test on there. You have enough line capacity. It's a lever drag. It's a 2-speed. So if you're drifting and fly lining baits, then, you know, if you've got a 40, 50, or 60 pound top shot and then match the top shot with the fluorocarbon, if you've got 40 pound line and your top shot, that you want 40 pound fluorocarbon. And so that would be my recommendation. That's a great reel. We have several of them for loaner tackle. We have the 60, the heavy ones, and we have some 30s and some 25s. Penn has been a great sponsor and has helped us out with loaner gear, along with Accurate products. We have several Accurate reels on board as well, and so Penn Fathom is a great reel. Great reel. So we want to thank everybody for participating today. We want to thank our sponsors, Izorline, Owner Hooks, Seeker Rods, Accurate Products, Penn, AFCO shirts for sun and sun protection and wind protection. All these people are great sponsors, and we're grateful for being associated with them. And once again, you know, Doug at Fisherman's Landing Tackle, whenever we come up with an idea to do this sort of thing, he supports us 100%, and it's great to have. And, you know, give us a call at Searcher Sport Fishing. You can go online and check out the schedule. We're hoping to get back out there in June, and you can book online. You can call Celia in the office. Callie will be back in there hopefully soon. 619-226-2403. SearcherSportFishing.com, and we can set up a payment plan for you or whatever you need. We still have space available on up and coming trips, and we're looking forward to the 2020 fishing season. Thanks, everybody.